Nesta hurriedly packed his things in his grip, scampered back to 9 Miles, and the protection of his grandfather Omariah was now refusing to return to his. So, the last time we saw young Bob, he was reading palms and deciding that he was going to become a musician after leaving Miss Gray's house. So let's pick up with Sadella's story. Times were hard for me and Nesta during those rough years in Stephanie. We were living from hand to mouth, battering from pillar to post with the ramshackle shop, which was barely putting food on the table. Most of my customers wanted to trust goods. Many could not repay when they said they would. Others would pay a shilling or two a week, pirong panit. Then want to trust another 5 shillings worth of groceries. At the time, I was in partnership with a man from my district, but since we could not see eye to eye without telling him, I made arrangements on my own to rent another shop. So she kind of go behind the man back and make another arrangement, okay? When he found out, he came one night to my house, ambush in the night, and called out to me to come down from the kerosene lamp glow of my front doorstep into a darkened, bushy spot in the yard to discuss business. Like, Siddy, come round at that tree in the background of the bush, let me talk to you. Want to talk to you. But I refused to meet him in the darkness, for I knew he was vexed. Eventually, he went away grumbling, oh, John, yes, in the night, as if he disappeared down the woodsy trail. No, sorry, as he disappeared down the woodsy trail. But the second shop was as poor as the first. Everything, just with liquor actually selling. A pound of sugar, 2 pounds of flour, half pound of saltfish, a bar of soap, 2 cigarettes, half dozen egg, and everything was put it down in the book, Auntie CD. She was running a non-for-profit, with the accounts mounting up so much in arrears that sometimes I didn't even have enough money to buy fresh stock. I had to find another way to support me and Nesta, and I think this is concurrent with possibly Narvel still being alive, but she may not know where he is after she got Nesta back from the grips of Mrs. Gray. I tried my hand next at higgling, transporting fruit and produce from the country to sell in Kingston. But higgling in Jamaica is not an easy life. Because she have to batter out herself. You pack your goods, usually ground produce such as yam, breadfruit, cocoa, plantain, seasoned fruit as mango, apple, June plum, and you board a bus or truck for Kingston. Sometimes you travel all night in the back of an overloaded truck, riding on top of whatever goods it is hauling. Chocker block with 30 or 40 other higglers for the long, chilly drive in pitch darkness down the winding mountain road in the lighted plains of Kingston. You see where Navocas? Further than that, you see when you did start girls' school city. Now look, Cityton Igla. You grab what little sleep you can over the grating of the truck gears and the whine of its engine, your head bouncing against a bunch of bananas or flapping against a stack of motor car tires. Whatever the truck happens to be hauling, pulling into sleeping Kingston at dawn light, with red eyes, throbbing shoulders, and aching bone. You're tired before you reach. And as somebody who used to do farmers markets, bro, you tired before you reach. That is an absolute fact. Sometimes you get there before the market is open and you unfurl a piece of cardboard onto the sidewalk pavement and catch an hour or so of restless sleep before a blast of tropical sun threatens to bake you in a pie on the concrete. Why, what a life. But my first and last try at higgling was a dismal flap. Not never did they go on for city. The Kingston boys robbed me of every penny. Remember she talked about Lucy Lawrence going to Kingston, following behind Novel Panar Donkey, and how the bad situation that happened to to Lucy Lawrence. So now she's saying that didn't happen to her, but she did get robbed. I fell victim to market boors, thieves who work in groups, one distracting you while the other bears off with your goods to a nearby accomplice. Their favorite target is someone like me, a new higgler from the country who is unschooled in their thieving ways. They surrounded me, all pretending to want to buy at the same time. And while I was trying to deal with them, someone shied a lime that hit me hard in on my shoulder. I looked around, but could not spot no chewer. Meanwhile, a nearby higgler, one of those strapping box aqua woman with beer belly, I can't with her description, was wrapped in a big pocket apron, began to rant and wave about hooligans throwing things in at the market. She carried on so loudly and violently that I finally said to her, "Then why you have to vex? Is me them lime catch and not fussing?" Poor thing. After the crowd of thieves had melted away from around my basket, the ranting Ilgla woman waddled up to me and growled, "If I was your husband, I'd beat your blink." I'm going to say backside, but she never say backside. Astonished, I looked at her and asked, "Why you say that?" She said impatiently, "Them lime that lick you, is me throw it." It's not funny. But it's funny. She said lime will lick you, me throw it. She said impatiently, "You know, I was trying to sign you off. You know how much piece I yam pass off here and gone? You know how much them boy tea from you?" Checking my goods spread out on the cement floor around my basket, I discovered that she was right. Much of it was gone. Hands of banana, head of yam, bunch of guinea, all disappeared. I felt so downhearted, I just sold off everything that was left as cheaply and quickly as I could, and with my tail between my legs, boarded the bus back to the country. That night, before I reached back to 9 Miles, even Poopa had heard about how the boars robbed foolish me in the Kingston market. Nesta tried to comfort me, but I still felt humiliated and ashamed at my denseness. It was obvious to me that if I had any talent, it was not for higgling. I gave it up for good. What an introduction to selling at the market. Let's jump down. But there was still the problem of making a living, of providing for me and my growing son, and removing us as another burden on Papa's shoulders. I cast around for something to do for a living. Around this time, my brother John came to visit 9 Miles from Kingston and told me that his wife was leaving for England to study nursing. He asked me if I'd like to come to Kingston and keep house for him. I discussed the offer with Papa and he said it might be a good idea for me to get a fresh start in Kingston. Because remember, she said she moved to Kingston. This is why I think at this time Norval is still alive, right? So leaving Nesta with Papa and my sister Enid in the house that Captain had built for me and Nesta, I moved to Kingston to live with brother John. We're going to jump down a little bit. So she go there and she becomes a living maid, and let's jump down. In the ensuing months, I went from one job to another, trying to live in work as well as day work. One couple I worked for together lived like puss and dog, always fussing and fighting with none. Stop the fussing and the fighting, brother. Many Fridays, the husband would disappear on a nighttime spree to some rum bar, leaving the wife stranded at home, weeping. When I would come to collect my pay, she would tell me tearfully that she had no money and that her husband hadn't yet brought home his paycheck. On Monday, I'd have to spend bus fare to get to their house, where I'd wait outside in the yard for the husband to arrive so I could beg him for my previous week's pay. Beg him for money we earned. But at least I was working and I was making money that I could use to help support Nesta. Let's jump down. So she goes into some stories. Definitely you can get the book and continue to read. It says, during the quiet moment, I made up my mind that one way or another, I would bring my son to live with me in Kingston. I remember she left him back in the country. So this is like the second time that Nesta is being separated from his mother at a very early age. The first time when in Ghana boarding school at St. Thomas, and now for reasons of financial advancement, she has to leave him again. So again, this is causing something in the spirit of a young boy. Let's just all remember that, right? So let's jump down here. It says, Until Nesta could join me in Kingston, I felt that I had to make a change in his living arrangement because basically she didn't like living with her brother, right? I was worried that living in 9 miles with Papa, Nesta was missing too much school. Papa, I knew from my own experience, was not a man to force a child to go to school, and Nesta, with his stubborn streak, would most likely prefer the freedom of skylarking in the fields and woodlands to being cooped up in a classroom miles down the road under the rule of a no-joke teacher. So I went to my sister Amy in Alderton and asked her if she would keep Nesta and see that he went to school. So she learned. She learned, right? She's like, okay, now Nesta, you're going to have to come do a little better. So she agreed. So she, again, now Nesta's in the hands of her sister. It says here, packing Nesta's clothes in a grip, I took him to Alderton and left him to live under the watchful strictness of Sister Amy. Papa understood, although he was reluctant to give him up. Papa, why you never want to give up Nesta? For he said Nesta had become his very right hand. Keep that in mind, you know. If I highlight the part there. The months rolled past. I continued working, sending money down to Nesta for his upkeep and corresponding frequently with him. On some weekends, I would take the bus to the country and visit him. But then, one day, I got a message that Nesta, are you ready for this? As a matter of fact, we're going to go to this commercial and then we're going to come back and find out what Nesta did. Real quick, this is Amuna, author and storyteller, and I have a new release available on Amazon because I love writing and reading stories. This is a Caribbean American tale about love and culture. We have a young girl named Jackie, and she gets into it with a lot of frenemies and some other people that's trying to take away our rights. So go ahead and check out Island Twist, available on Amazon today. Now let's get back to the story. So now Nesta, they are strict Aunt Amy, you know. But then one day, I got a message that Nesta had run away from Sister Amy in Alderton and returned to Papa's house. Oh, Nesta, so bright. My sister Amy, being childless and stern, was not a woman to brook any nonsense from a child. But as I later found out, Nesta had run away from her to escape punishment. A Jamaican yard is a communal dwelling place, usually occupied by more than one family, each with its own small house within a stone's throw of his neighbors. No matter how severe the hardship, Sunday is a day when everyone eats, and often out of the same yard pot. On this particular Sunday, the adults and their various broods, I mean, I like that word, I never like that word to describe children, had trooped off to church in their Sabbath finery, leaving Nesta and his cousin Sledger behind in charge of cooking the pot of food for the yard dinner. But having cooked the food as instructed, the two of them had also eaten up nearly the whole pot full of it. Not only did them cook, then yam too, for the yard dinner. When the adults returned from worship, they would be hungry and plenty vexed to find that two greedy belly boys had gobbled down their Sunday dinner. With Sledger at his side, Nesta hurriedly packed his things in his grip, scampered back to 9 miles, and the protection of his grandfather, Omariah, was now refusing to return to his sister Amy. When I found out, I made up my mind that things couldn't continue in this way. Nesta had to come and live with me in Kingston, where he would have a chance to attend secondary school. He was growing bigger every day. He needed the opportunities only Kingston could provide. But where would we live? That's a question. Then as I considered my mind and fretting like a godsend, my Aunt Ivy invited me to come and share an apartment on Bedford Street where she lived alone with her daughter. She said they had plenty of room, but the rent was a burden. I agreed, provided I could send for Nesta. She said yes, and I wrote Papa telling him to put Nesta on the bus. So remember that scene, if you saw the movie, the biopic pic, where they have an old man giving him a Bible and then they put him in on the bus. I'm imagining this is the scene, but he wasn't that young. But I'm imagining this is the scene where the grandfather is sending him to Kingston. It says here, 2 weeks later, Looking young, strong, and handsome, Nesta stepped off the country bus at the parade terminus. We hugged and kissed with joy at being finally reunited. Then he picked up his heavy grip with a manful effort, and the two of us set out to our new home on Beckford Street in Kingston. Country Coma Town. Stay tuned. I know it wasn't all the way eventful, but this is the setup for the Bob Marley that the world will know. Okay? So Country Coma Town. In run because he nyama off the pot. And we are going to find out what happened next. So stay tuned. Like, subscribe, share, and all that lovely good stuff.